IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Folks, welcome to Paisa Vaisa powered by Max Life Insurance. I'm your host Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and this is a midweek special episode where we are talking life insurance after a long time with my guest Aalok Bhan, Director and Chief Marketing Officer, Max Life Insurance. We're going to talk about what's happening in the industry, Max Life's survey, and much more right after this short break.
We know you love fast food,
fast fashion,
faster payment,
lightning fast internet speed.
Then why not fast information?
On Think Fast, where we discuss the latest developments in the world of technology, business, marketing, pop culture.
With a side of sarcasm and my dad jokes, not just mine.
Not mine, Varun. My jokes are funny. So join me, guys, the funnier one, Suchita Salvan, co-founder of LBB.
And me, Varun Dugirala, the co-founder of The Glitch, as we think fast only on the IVM network.
Fresh episodes out every Monday.
On the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.
And welcome back. Alok, welcome to Paisa Vaisa. Thank you so much for doing this for our listeners.
Thank you very much, Anupam. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let's start off this very interesting survey that you guys have got. It's called the India Protection Quotient, or IPQ. And you guys have been doing it for a while. You're out with IPQ 4.0. What makes IPQ 4.0 different from the previous editions? Some highlights and takeaways from the survey.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Before I get into the details, Anupam, I'd like to advise your audience that for Max Life, it's a commitment. We are committed towards increasing and empowering the Indians and the feeling about their financial security of the future. So our objective really is to increase awareness of life insurance. Its core purpose, which is to safeguard the future financial future of the loved ones of the family. And therefore, irrespective of the situation that the country is going through, which we went through in the last 2 years with the pandemic, we have continued to do this marquee survey. In fact, in the last year, when we went through the phase 2, and we know that phase 2 has been the most traumatic, hopefully the last one as well, we did 2 times. We did the survey twice so that we could really gauge how the Indians are responding to and reacting to the pandemic. IPQ 4.0, which is the one that we did in December, January, which was also in the midst of the wave 3, albeit not necessarily a very hectic wave, so to say. We've managed to do this survey, and we have evolved to do this survey now completely digitally. So therefore, the world is moving digital. We also, along with our partners in Kantar Insights, did the survey digitally. We only ensured one thing, at least, that the sample that we pick up is significantly representative of the country. We focused on mostly urban India, though we have moved our survey from just the metros to metros, tier 1, tier 2 towns. We will, as we go forward, hopefully as things get better, do some tier 3s and maybe sometime later get to villages as well. Not sure on that right now. But the sample size is quite representative. Close to 5,800 people were taken through this survey in IPQ 4.0. So that way I would say quite representative. Yeah.
Okay. So Alok, just break down the IPQ for our listeners, right? I think it's from 0 to 100? Is that how it works?
So it's actually an index. It's not a percentage in everything, but in some cases there are percentages. There are 3 broad indicators, which is understanding what is the understanding of Indians, which is what we call the knowledge index. Then there is a security index, which is a percentage, which is how secure do you feel? So the focus is on feeling and not only on numbers. So it's a qualitative aspect also coming in, but trying to make it into a quantitative aspect. And the third and the most important is ownership, which means, am I aware? Number 1, knowledge. Am I feeling secure? Am I feeling positive? Am I feeling positive about my future? And the third is, am I actually buying life insurance to convert the feeling into a positive situation? So these 3 come together and create a IPQ index. Now, over the last 4 years, we have seen that the country has been evolving its own readiness for its financial future. It has been improving, sometimes not so much, sometimes great. In fact, this year, IPQ 4, which has come through post the pandemic, we have seen a 3-point lift. I'm again saying 3-point. I'm not saying percentage because that's an index, as I said. A 3-point lift, and it's come to 50, which is positive. But is 50 good enough? I think the answer is no, really. We should do much more. What is the final benchmark we should get to is anybody's guess as I speak right now. But if I look at IPQ 4, what really brought some bit of relief as well as hope for the future is that because of the pandemic, the pandemic has been the biggest educator for us in life insurance. It's sad but anyway, that's the reality. It's opened up eyes of everybody. This time around, we have seen that the index has moved up by 3 points, as I said. The important part is that the security index or the feeling of security has jumped up because and even the survey says that because the vaccination that has happened in India at such a large level has built that feeling of security and has reduced the anxiety about death and mortality. Fear still exists. People are still being careful. I think it's become a way of life right now. And increasingly, as we see, as the lockdowns open up and, you're seeing the crowds coming back. Yet, I do see while the crowds are coming back, there is a little bit of, caution is now become a part of the way consumers are responding, which is good news. The line that we use is that India has learned to co-live with the pandemic and is now wanting to move into the growth phase. That's really the narrative that I would say, which is important. Ownership has almost remained same, but that ownership is a fall through of how you feel. So it takes time. We are very positive that ownership will increase in the coming years. We also believe that there is also another finding that we found, that while the consumers may not have bought, or new consumers may not have bought insurance increasingly, but consumers have diversified their portfolio of life insurance. So it's not only buying a particular kind of life insurance, they are trying to buy all kinds of life insurance, which includes the term plan, the most important part for life insurance, the most important purpose, that has increased. So has investments increased, investment part of their portfolios, and so has the traditional plans, which are goal-based plans like child education, retirement, etc. So investors have diversified their portfolio, which is good news not only for the industry but for the country per se. Because every plan of life insurance has to have a life cover. That's the only way it becomes life insurance. So yeah, people's their own cover has increased, is what we have found out.
That's a good thing, I guess, for
Yes,
for covers to increase. And maybe we can just go a little bit more in depth on the investment side, what we just said, because there's a very interesting chart I just saw in the IPQ 4 that breaks down the insurance product into 3 parts, right? Like you said. So there's term, which is the most basic one, like you said, and which I guess should be an important part of all our financial products. There is savings, right? And then there is market link. And there's a very interesting chart here about the awareness being high, the ownership being a little bit lower. So for example, in case of the savings plan, the awareness was 75, the ownership was 39. So there's an aware to ownership conversion of 52%. It sounds very interesting. Could you throw some insights out here?
Certainly. So awareness to purchase, as I said in the beginning, is a journey. Okay. The traditional plans or the savings plans, as you talk about them, they have been the oldest, and they have also been, for the last 60, 70 years, been promoted the most, typically by the industry leader, which is Life Insurance Corporation. So it is a part of everybody's household, frankly. I mean, our first policies are bought by our parents. That's the first thing. But their motivation was tax. The reason why our parents bought policies for us is because they could save some tax on that. Now, as the industry as the awareness is progressing, and increasingly companies are building awareness for consumers that, look, this is a great plan, but it's for tax purposes. It doesn't serve your cover purposes because the coverage is just about 10 odd lakhs at best. And in this world, what is 10 odd lakhs if something untoward was to happen to you? So the new consumers, millennials, are actually getting into understanding this, and uh, the shift is happening from the core purpose of life insurance for tax to the purpose which is it's truly for, which is for protecting their life, their future of their families if they were not to be there. So yes, increasingly we are seeing that the term plans ownership is increasing at the fastest rate, and hence there is a bit of a depression on the savings funds, even though savings still contributes to the majority of the purchase that happens across this category. I guess it's a large base, so you will see the percentage being a bit different. And in term, it's a smaller base, so it's again a percentage is higher. Is it an important aspect? Absolutely, because life insurance as a category does not only serve a singular purpose of mortality risk. It also serves, in fact, importantly enough, and I think people should understand that even the savings plans and the traditional plans serve goal-based objectives. So they are targeted towards a specific goal that an individual wants to achieve for himself or his family. And that's what we've even seen in IPQ 4.0. In fact, in the previous surveys, because of the pandemic wrath, we saw the prioritization changing a little bit. The main prioritization that time suddenly became, obviously rightfully so, on health and go back to roti kapda makan. But now, as India becomes a little bit more positive towards the situation, we are seeing the old prioritization coming back. That goal-based means child plans, child education, not so much marriage, because I don't think kids anymore depend on their parents for their choices. But very clearly, education becomes number one. Again, comes back to number one. And then now new category on retirement. These are very goal-based objectives, event-based objectives. So that's coming back. So to your question, when you look at market linked for India has always been a category which, India is that kitna deti hai kind of a society. So yeah, we are all excited about market linked things. Equity markets have been up and down. That's the nature of equity markets. So consumers are realizing increasingly that life insurance is more from a safety perspective than from a wealth management perspective. So whenever you ask them on various surveys that what is the main objective of life insurance, it always comes and says to take care of my family's future. And therefore, I don't want to play around with too many, ups and downs, which is the nature of equity markets. So yeah, to cut a long story short,
Sure.
people are becoming more aware, and hence there is a bit of a lag. Traditional will be a lag because in traditional you don't necessarily. It's a bit of a paradox that if you're looking for a savings plan, are you looking for returns or are you looking for goals? So that becomes a little bit of a dampener. But yeah,
Sure.
I think we are moving the right direction.
Okay. Moving on, how has the life insurance industry shaped up in this last 1 year? Any trends that you're seeing?
Well, positive trends, and I think if you read all data and IRDAI annual reports and all, the industry has been improving. I would say actually the industry has done its social purpose as well. We have corrected a lot of things. We have grown a lot on awareness, and therefore I would still not say that insurance is in demand or a demand product. There is a famous saying of life insurance that life insurance is a push product, which means it's not yet a pull as yet, but there is a change. I would say it's become from a push product, which is pushed by the distributors, to a nudge product. So a soft nudge is working, and people's awareness has resulted in the industry also doing well. Uh, Coming back to from a Max Life perspective, we are doing pretty well. We are leaders on protection. Our growth rates are almost 22%, upwards of that. And we look at it now from a 2-year perspective because it's a continuum. And we are doing very well. Top 4 companies are leading the pack, that's why they're top 4. And we are also leading the top 4. So we are happy with that. Future is bright, but I think still we have to walk the path. We have to still focus on awareness. And that's the reason why I said, okay, let me come to Paisa Vaisa and try and build some awareness to your listeners that it is a core necessary product to have in your portfolio. At the end of the day, it's all about achieving your future goals, your objectives for your family, and ensuring that in your absence, if ever, which is a reality, the goals and the aspirations that your family has, your children have, your parents have, is not sacrificed. I would love to talk a lot about the core objective, but I'll just leave you with a couple of thoughts and leave the audience with a couple of thoughts. What we've seen in the industry in the last, I would say, at least 4 to 5 years, and more so in the last 2 years, from a perspective of discussion on death. Indians don't like to discuss death, and that's the culture. The entire narratives have moved towards positivity, right? Which is about, if you want to enjoy your present, just plan for the downside and then live for the upside. And I would leave it to your listeners again to judge for themselves. That I think life insurance is the true friend, because a friend in need is a friend indeed. And therefore, life insurance is that friend of yours that will take care of your objectives if you are not there. And I think that is the reason why we believe that before you do anything that you want to do about your finances, ensure that you have with yourself a life insurance policy which can take care of your objectives and your family's objectives just in case you're not there. So,
Sure.
yeah.
And on that note, folks, we're going to take a small break. We'll be right back with more about Max Life's current product mix, key focus areas, and much, much more on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं, हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार।
And welcome back. Okay, Aalok, let's talk about Max Life. So, what is the current product mix that Max Life has, and what are the key focus areas for your business?
Okay, so Max Life, we've been in the last 22 years in this place, and we have always had and prided ourselves with a balanced product mix. Okay, now obviously some changes do happen depending on the environment, but our focus is largely to balance the product mix and go by what actually the consumer needs. So, but in this time, in the last 2 years, there are a couple of changes. One of our big focus areas, as I said, and very closely linked to our commitment towards protection, is that we have focused to build our protection mix at a higher level than what we have in the past, and we continue to focus on that. In fact, we are right now leaders with Policy Bazaar, who's the biggest aggregator on term insurance. We are leaders over there. We are increasing that our protection mix by close to 40 to 45% year on year. But as I said, it's a smaller base, so it's well balanced. But when in times of stress and in times of doubt, like these we've been doing, there is a constant flight to safety. That's what consumers go for. So therefore, guaranteed products, what we call as non-participating plans, savings plans, but they are non-participating and they are guaranteed plans, is where the consumers move towards. So that has seen an increase. We've also increased our product portfolio to manage that demand. Going forward, we are now, along with continuing to focus on both protection term plans and guarantee products, we are now focusing on, and we've been for the last 1 year, focusing on retirement plans. Because as we see, India is going to age, right? Today it is very young, but India is going to age. And basis all the stuff that's happening around the economy, India still has a large gap for pensions and retirement. So we are focusing on retirement now. We launched a survey similar to IPQ last year, which was India Retirement Index Study. And that became because we want to be thought leaders on retirement as well, just the way we are thought leaders on protection. So that will be, annuity plans will be a focus area. We have launched many more plans there, and we are growing our mix on annuity. So continue to remain balanced, focus on retirement, focus on savings, on guarantees, and build in the future annuity plans to be able to tap the gap that lies on retirement, preparation for retirement. That's our
Oh.
focus.
Okay, so just wrapping up this episode, Alok, there is one part in the IPQ section which says, challenges hamper term ownership, such as high premiums, claims refund, hidden clauses, terms and conditions, stuff like that. And all of these are barriers for people to purchase term plans. So, according to you, what is the one key aspect that life insurers must focus on to deliver a great customer experience?
I wish there was one, but I will try and attempt. I won't say I will not attempt. Number one, that term insurance is expensive is a myth. In fact, the Indian premiums to cover ratios are the lowest across the world and by a margin. But yeah, because term insurance is treated by individuals as an expense because you don't get money back. You think it is an expense. You don't think about your insurance premiums for your motor car as an expense. There also you don't get any money back. But that's because it's regulatory, etc., etc. So, So price is not something that should be a point of worry for the consumers. I mean, come on. If you are young, if you are healthy, say at the age of 25, you buy a term policy for, let's say, 25 years or 30 years, your premium for a 1 crore cover is in the range of $700 to $800 a month, right? Frankly, that's a meal a month if you go out to eat something. So that can't be expensive. But yeah, I think the area where life insurance companies have to certainly work harder is on journey complications. We have to have the customer journey completely made simple for the consumer, not from a life insurer perspective, but from a consumer perspective. Because not only is the consumer comparing you versus your other competitors in the life insurance space, but the digital consumer is comparing you versus an Amazon versus all the Flipkarts of the world on their journey. So the big area where life insurers need to certainly work, and they are working, frankly, being pushed by the consumer, not necessarily by the regulator only, but by the consumer, is that make your digital journeys that much more consumer oriented. De-jargonize your products. We are a traditional industry being controlled by a regulator, so we have loved the idea of making it complex. De-jargonize it, make it simple, and let the consumer decide where he goes. And again, I will say, you have no choice but to build awareness for the category. That's it. And that's an area of work which is happening as we speak, but more needs to happen. And you just have to give it time. It's a 25-year-old industry. LIC has been there for 60, 65 years. So it takes some time. I'm not giving ourselves that time. We shouldn't be taking time. As fast as possible, we have to move, make it more consumer focused and consumer centric. That's some of the jargons we have to become.
And the journey is going in the right direction, right? Because like you said, the private sector life industry has changed tremendously. Even if you look back from maybe 2007, 2008, over the last 10, 12 years, it has changed a lot. I'm sure that the journey will be pro-consumer, more customer-friendly, and solve all these issues. And with that, folks, that's a wrap on this episode of Paisa Vaisa, powered by Max Life Insurance. My guest, Aalok Bhan, Director and Chief Marketing Officer at Max Life Insurance. Alok, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this for our listeners.
Thank you for having me, Anurag. Good discussion with you, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of Paisa Vaisa, powered by Max Life Insurance. And listeners, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm your host, Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter. And thank you so much for listening to Paisa Vaisa.
No material on the show should be considered as financial advice. The material on the show is for informational purposes only. Please consult a financial advisor before taking any investment decision.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus and Silvery are joined by Naveen Narona and Sriram Padmanabhan. Tune in to catch them talking about Elon Musk's challenge to Vladimir Putin for a one-on-one battle to end the Russia-Ukraine war. We have a brand new show on the network, Ek Chuski Finance, or a Sip of Finance, or Ek Sip Financha. Why does it have so many different names? Because it's a very ambitious project that we're launching at IVM Podcasts, 8 different languages. This is a really special one. It's a podcast that takes into account a female-first perspective of finance and how to get the most out of your money. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to Malini Agarwal, founder and creative director of Miss Malini Entertainment. Their conversation takes us through the journey of establishing Miss Malini, how it began as a blog and eventually became an empire. On the Habit Coach podcast, Ashton is in conversation with Roberta Hughes, founder and lead instructor, Peaceful Living, where they discuss how to add self-care into our daily routines. On Ikaduka Economy, Abhinav talks about how the war between Ukraine and Russia will impact India and the world's middle class. On Pulia Bazi, the hosts talk about the concept of one nation, one election. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platform that you might be listening to us. You can also check us out on YouTube. We have a webpage, ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, where a list of all our channels are. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, Bank of Baroda, India Water Portal, and Max Life Insurance. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.